Hello guys and welcome to my new video, and today we're going to do a continuation of the series that I started a couple of weeks ago in terms of finding the most fun healer. And this week we're going to be looking at Priest, and that is going to include Discipline Priest, Holy Priest. This series is all about gearing the character and then playing Mythic Plus, playing raids, and then basically doing a video about all the negative and positive things the class brings. Again, this is a subjective opinion. You're more than welcome to agree or disagree, so let's go and get started. So first of all, let's talk about Discipline Priest. Now, my Priest in terms of gearing was a massive rat. It had like 436 item levels, so there was an uphill battle in terms of trying to get the item levels, get the tier sets, because I do not want to comment about healers before I get the tier sets. The tier set is the most important thing for a lot of healers, and that is especially true for Priests or Discipline Priest, because the tier set, it changes or adds so much value. So it took me a little while to get the tier set on my Priest in order to try out Holy Priest and Discipline Priest, and honestly it's been a long time since I last played a Priest. Now, I play every single healer during the PTR cycles in World of Warcraft. The last PTR cycle was quite a while ago, so it took me a little while to get back into the Discipline Priest. Honestly, it took me like 4 or 5 keys to really kind of feel comfortable in terms of how to play Priest, and I still made a lot of mistakes, and I still don't feel really comfortable or 100% in terms of how to optimize disc, because I think that's kind of the nature of the class, especially with the cooldown reduction, and we'll talk about the gameplay, versus something like Holy Priest, where I did like 1 or 2 keys and I honestly kind of felt right at home. And that is probably to do more with the fact that, again, Holy Priest is a lot more classic healer. Discipline Priest is a quintessential healing through damage, and it's going to appeal to a different variety of audiences, but this really felt fun for me. So what's changed with Discipline Priest in Season 3? There's been quite a few changes in terms of trying to simplify or reduce the amount of buttons that you have to press, and honestly I kind of enjoyed that. And I think there's going to be a lot of people who might have mixed opinions, but I really like that Shadow Covenant cooldown reduction gameplay. Now, if you've never played Discipline Priest, Shadow Covenant is activated by pressing something like Shadow Fiend or Mindbender. I was running the Mindbender build for majority of Mythic Plus and raids and things like that, and by pressing Mindbender I'm activating Shadow Covenant, and then you kind of have these Shadow Covenant windows where you need to optimize which buttons you're going to press in order to optimize your damage, healing, and cooldown reduction. Because you have to remember, your 4-set bonus also adds additional cooldown reduction through smites. You should always be casting as a healer no matter what, but I think that goes extra for Discipline Priest. Regardless whether you're in Shadow Covenant or not, you should always be pressing your abilities, and if you cannot, for whatever reason, you might be dealing with a mechanic or you might be getting flustered, you're not casting abilities, you're not getting cooldown reduction on your Shadow Fiend or Mindbender, depending on which talent you pick, you're going to be in trouble because you might not have Shadow Covenant for a specific healing phase. And this might create a spiraling effect depending on which boss or trash pack you're dealing with, so there is always an extra emphasis on Discipline Priest and making sure to cast and cast and cast. I know Discipline Priest has lost a certain number of buttons ever since the Discipline Priest rework. A lot of people might like that, some people don't. I still felt like there was a decent amount of skill seeding required in order to play around those Shadow Covenant windows, and honestly Discipline Priest felt so good, especially during something like Heroism or Bloodlust, where you have so much haste and the cooldown reduction is just insane. And honestly it was really fun to play in order to min-max it. I did feel that because I was playing during the bursting week, and honestly if you're playing pugs, if you're doing bursting, you'll notice that your mass dispel, the cooldown is 2 minutes. And there were moments, especially for someone who hasn't played Discipline Priest all that often, where I have 5 or 6 or 7 stacks and there's no mobs to hit, and I'm like, what do I do here? My Master Spell is on cooldown, it's 2-minute cooldown, how do I deal with this? And I felt like the bursting week probably wasn't the best week for me to play Discipline Priest, especially in pug environments, but overall I had a really fun time. And because I haven't played Discipline all that much, there's so many things that I could improve on, and it kind of drove me to keep playing this, because I felt every single key I could get better. I could get better at ramping, I could get better at improving the cooldown reduction. It just felt like I needed to play this class in order to get better, and it kept me interested. For example, I was really overusing Powered Radiance too much, and for certain boss or trash packs where there was a lot of AoE damage incoming, I didn't have Powered Radiance to apply atonements to my group, and I felt a little bit like in a panic mode. And that kind of made me, hey, maybe next time I should hold it a little bit, maybe I shouldn't use Radiance all that much, maybe I should wait for the damage to, start ramping up and things like that. And we're talking about primarily about Mythic Plus content here. It just felt like a spec that I could play all day in order to improve, because even though a lot of people might say that it's become easier, it's not as difficult as it used to be, especially when it comes to raiding content, I still felt like that cooldown reduction gameplay, optimizing your radiances or optimizing your burst windows and things like that, is really interesting part of the class. On top of that, Shadow Road Dead being a bigger part of your rotation, especially during Shadow Covenant windows or execute phases, a useful ability to press, and I really kind of like that. It added an extra button to press, and I thought it was a meaningful button as well. Now, I did not get to play Raid or Discipline Priest in Raid as much as I wanted to, so I don't really want to comment about Discipline Priest in Raid because I just didn't have enough experience about this. But in terms of should you play this priest, honestly, if you're someone who's really enjoying that healing through damage, I think Discipline Priest is really fun. If you enjoy that cooldown reduction type of mini gameplay that you have with Shadow Covenant, that you have with Mindbender or Shadow Fiend, depending on which talent you're picking, I think it's going to be really fun. I know there is a lot of that smite spamming and things like that, and that a lot of people might like that, a lot of people might not like that. I generally feel it's a class that made me come back all the time, because I was always like, hey, I want to do this key and do better. I want to do this key, I want to improve my gameplay, I want to get better, I want to optimize this class more and more and more. And honestly, the fact that it's so meta, that it's doing well, it's also like a cherry on top. And now let's go to Holy Priest. And honestly, I felt right at home with Holy Priest. I don't think it's all that difficult to pick up. I know if you want to really master this class, you have to invest a lot of time and optimization. That goes for every healing class in World of Warcraft. And Holy Priest is not really viewed all that meta, especially when it comes to Mythic Plus content, but I had a good time with Holy Priest. I felt right at home. It is one of those classic type of healers where, again, if you want to heal, you point and click. I did a lot of Mythic Plus content, I played with a lot of different builds, I was experimenting different playstyles and things like that. I really enjoyed the tier set for Holy Priest. I actually feel that, for example, I was running Miracle Worker and the tier set and having back to back Holy Word spells. It felt kind of rewarding and fun to use, and again, I played a lot of Holy Priest on PTO. The tier set went through a lot of iterations where it didn't use to proc and things like that, but the current version of the tier set in terms of the procs, honestly, it felt rewarding to play. It felt fun to use your Holy Word spells all that often. In terms of the classic approach of Holy Priest, you still have quite a few buttons that you can press in terms of providing damage. I really like Ethereal Blaze, having instant cast Holy Fires on a lot of the mobs and then going back to healing. It didn't really interrupt my healing process too much, and honestly, during the weekly keys, I was doing good damage and good healing. I wasn't doing super high keys because my item level was, again, I went from like 440 item level to 450 to 460, and I finished off at something like 475, and I was doing a lot of these weekly keys, and Holy Priest felt like it held its own in that weekly key range. Now, I'm fully aware that if you're doing higher keys than that, and you're kind of committed to fully healing the party, your damage is going to be lower because you don't really do a whole lot of damage or healing through damage. And that is the big difference between Holy Priest and Discipline Priest. They have completely opposite gameplays, and I think that is fantastic, because if you're someone who's going to pick up Priest, you have multiple different options that might appeal to you. And in terms of the classic approach of Holy Priest, in terms of click and heal type of thing, I think it's important for Blizzard to kind of keep that healer alive, because a lot of the healers in retail have gone through this, can you do healing through damage? A lot of healers trying to focus or optimize DPS, and they have a lot of talents and spells that provide you healing through that DPS. Now, not every healer does that. For example, the Restoration Druid, if you're trying to provide damage in that feral form, you're not going to provide additional healing, but you can still cast heals while in feral, for example, your Grove Guardians. But I think Holy Priest has been a little bit stuck in the past, and I don't think that's a bad thing, because I know there's a lot of people who played World of Warcraft in Classic, they played Holy Priest in the good old Classic days, and they want to play Healer for the first time in Dragonflight, and I would say, hey, pick up Holy Priest. It still has that essential point and click type of healing element, and if you really want to, for example, try something different, try out Discipline Priest. And we are primarily talking about Holy Priest in Mythic Plus content, but there were times in Mythic Plus where there was a lot of group-wide AoE healing needed, and I was kind of falling behind, and that is partly due to my low item level, but I wish Divine Hin would be a better option in Mythic Plus, especially considering that most Holy Priests doing Mythic Plus are not picking it due to its power. In terms of raiding, I did try out my Holy Priest in raids. It still felt somewhat similar to a lot of previous patches. Again, I enjoyed the tier set. I like those back-to-back Holy Word spells, banking up your 4-set bonus, having Miracle Worker and things like that. I thought it was interesting. On top of that, you have this like little mini game with something like casting Circle of Healing. Is going to allow you to cast more efficient and faster Prayer of Healing because you have Prayer Circle. And it added a little bit extra flair to the class, but overall it just does what it says on the tin. It's going to heal people and you click and heal them. So a summary of the video in terms of which healers I enjoyed the most, honestly, Discipline Priest was really fun because I had this love-hate relationship with this because I wasn't optimizing this healer in as much sense as I like to, and it kept me coming back in terms of I'm gonna do this key, I'm gonna optimize my cooldown reduction better, I'm gonna get better ramps, I'm gonna get better numbers, and it just kind of kept me playing. I really enjoyed that min-maxy style of the class. I'm sure that if you played this for a long time in Season 3, you probably don't have the same kind of feeling and feel a lot more confident, but for me, it felt like I could improve every single key, and because of that reason, I kept playing this. And again, I can't really explain it properly. I kind of approached or expected this to be one of my favorite healers in World of Warcraft. I don't think that's the truth for me. I think it's in the top 3 right now. I think Resto Druid, Discipline Priest, and Mistweaver Monk, again, not in the same order, but I think those 3 healers are really fun for me to play. I'm actually also enjoying Resto Shaman, but I'm not sure where I would place that. So Discipline wasn't as fun as I expected because I had really high expectations in terms of being the one and the best and the most fun healer for me. It just felt for me like a healer that has a lot of potential. It can be min-maxed in a lot of ways, and it kept me playing, and I think that's only a good thing. And in terms of Holy Priest, honestly, I felt right at home because it has that kind of classic healing mentality, and I think it's relatively easy to pick up initially, especially for people who are playing World of Warcraft for the first time and they're looking to pick up a healer, someone who sees HP going down, they click them and heal them. And I think that's probably going to be, or Holy Priest might be one of those classes that tick those boxes. And it does have a bit of that DPS flair in like Mythic Plus content, picking up Ethereal Blaze, having instant cast Holy Fires. It felt like it added a little bit of that flavor in terms of DPS, but honestly, after a certain number of dungeons and raids, I started to get a little bit bored of this class. And that is, again, it's a personal opinion. I felt like I would, if I were to main Holy Priest for the whole season, I would definitely get bored of this healer eventually. And I don't know how to really put it, but I felt like I had a bit more or ways to optimize my gameplay with Discipline Priest than I did with Holy Priest. I'm not saying I played Holy Priest in a good way. There's multiple ways I could, again, master the class both in raids and Mythic Plus content. It just felt like it was getting a little bit stale for me, but that is only my personal opinion. I know so many people who might not have all the time in the world to play this game, and they're looking to gravitate towards a healer that is a little bit more simple to pick up initially. And again, every healer has, or there is a skill ceiling to every healer in order to master them. So overall, Priest is honestly such a great class for anyone to pick up in World of Warcraft. Anyone who's starting to heal for the first time in Dragonflight, honestly, Priest is going to provide you with multiple different gameplays that are very opposite. If you're looking to pick up a healer for the first time, I can always recommend playing Holy Priest. Holy Priest is going to give you the basics in terms of the classic type of healer. And then if you feel like you want to progress a little bit more, min-max a little bit more, I think Discipline Priest can really add to that kind of mentality. Discipline Priest is healing through damage, and it's going to provide a lot more variety if you're looking for that variety. So Priest, honestly, is a great option for anyone who's playing this game. The only thing I kind of wish is that, especially in these weekly keys, I get it, Priest provides PI, Power Infusion, and things like that, and those are great, especially when it comes to high keys in order to optimize damage. But when you're doing these weekly keys, I do think that there is certain lack of utility, especially with the nerf to Master Spell now being 2 minutes, in terms of you don't have an interrupt. And that can be somewhat lackluster when you're doing those Mythic Plus weekly keys and you're not really trusting your pugs. There's a lot of other healers, for example, Resto Shaman, who I feel just, you can pick up Resto Shaman, do a weekly key, and honestly carry the group because he provides so much in terms of controlling the groups and trash bags, versus Priest, who doesn't have all that control, but in really high keys, that PI is going to be really juicy. So honestly, Priest, a really great option for anyone who's playing World of Warcraft who is looking to pick up healing, because it's the only healer out there, or the only class out there, who provides 2 healing specs that are so different that are going to cover a lot of people's expectations or needs. Let me know how you feel about this video. Let me know if you want me to continue this series, if you want me to try and play that Preservation of Ochre, because it is the last healer that I need to gear.